So, Faye Easton, welcome to Telford Live. Now, you're standing as an independent candidate in the Wrekin constituency. It's your first election as a candidate.
It is.
So, congratulations for stepping forward and stepping up. Would you like to have just a couple of minutes to talk, just to tell everybody what they're voting for when they vote for you?
I will, thank you very much. So, yes, I'm Faye Easton. I'm standing as an independent for the Wrekin. There are 5 towns and a dozen villages in the Wrekin, and while traditional politics and the big party system hasn't changed in decades, everything has changed here. I've worked here for 20 years and I've watched the economy's decline over the last 7 years. In actual fact, there's been a 50-year decline, quite slowly, in our market towns, and local residents in this last 7 years are faced with declining public services, youth unemployment that just will not shift, reducing numbers of teachers, doctors, nurses and police. There's something going very badly wrong with the system. I'm an entrepreneur and I've heard very little about growth and the economy during this election. I've heard a lot about spending, but nothing about earning. As a business person, I've seen that the basic problems we face come down to money shortage. The national debt is costing us 40 billion a year to service, and this borrowing's increased by 80% in 7 years. As the big parties say, a strong economy will drive our recovery, but where's that strong economy coming from? It will come from the ground up. I see it every day in my day-to-day work. I see brilliant entrepreneurs, enthusiastic students. We can make startups, we can create jobs and increase business, but we do need some backup. We can then spend more money on hospitals, schools, police and social care services. I'm free of party politics and all my energies will be invested in working for the Wrekin at both national and local level. I'm not standing to make a statement, I'm standing to make some change. And for change to happen, something has to change. If you vote for me, I promise to work tirelessly in this constituency. I'll be the first female MP for 88 years. And together we can make the Wrekin giant again.
Thank you very much. So you mentioned a few subjects in that presentation. The key one from the survey that I did of constituents in the Wrekin area was, will be no surprise, it was the PRH and the health service. So what would you think the answer might be for the health service in the area?
Well, it's a massive one and it's cross-party. It doesn't matter who you vote for, they all want to keep the hospital services. Of course we all do. It affects our families. I've had a good look at this, and Stuart Rose did a report 3 years ago into the NHS. So former chief exec of Marks and Spencer, and I think they brought a business person in to look to say what's going wrong. And it seems that they are drowning in a sea of bureaucracy. And the costs vary from hospital to hospital. I'm sure efficiencies can be made. It's a very pan thing to say, but yeah, efficiencies can be made. We're short of staff, obviously. People are demotivated, aren't they? There's a wages cap, they can't get enough people. And yet, the people who complain about the NHS are called the worried well, because 63% of people, when surveyed, are very happy with their local National Health Service. So I think, yes, we're all scared. Yes, we're all worried about that eventuality when we need it and it just might not be there. And it does need attention, but it will need more money. And as I say, to put more money in, number one, it needs to be used efficiently. And number two, we need to be earning more.
Okay, earning more is a good point. The second thing that people were interested in the survey was Brexit and the economy, the effect that Brexit would have on the economy. As a business person, Faye, what's your take on that?
My take on it is let's make the best of it, because I'm 99.9% sure it won't be reversed. Free trade economy served us very well actually in the first industrial revolution, and it actually gave us the wealth we more or less live off today. So free trade, global trade is very good for us. Now, the EU aren't going to beat us up too badly because they need us. We're the 6th biggest importer in the world. 15-20% of their trade depends on us. They're not going to cut us off. Yes, it'll take some clever negotiating to get us a good deal. But I think they'll want it. I think we all want a good result. But I'm quite keen on doing more of what I see at quite a local level, where I know a lot of my startup businesses and my small entrepreneurs don't think they're exporting when they put things in jiffy bags that go to Australia, but they truly are. We don't measure it as an export, but let's open that up, because the more foreign money we can bring into the country, the richer we're going to be, and we can start building our services back up again. So I would be quite positive about us getting a good deal.
Okay, so you've seen quite a few businesses, probably more than most politicians, given your background. So you're seeing a lot of startups and a lot of businesses in growth. What are their thoughts about the economy and how things are going?
They're worried. They're worried about the lack of confidence, because what thriving markets need is confidence, and we don't have much of that at the moment. So you hit a business with poor confidence, and their trade will go down. And in the terrible recession and through 2008 to 10, there was no structural reason for the economy to decline. It was lack of confidence, lack of investor confidence. So they need confidence. We've got a kind of mismatch between the massive growth in home-based business in this country, because now we've got tech, we've got massive opportunity for businesses to run from home. But we can't see them, so you can't see a lot of these artisans, because lots of our properties are just not suitable for them. They would like to come out and do retail and do customer testing, but they just can't find the suitable properties. You do need public sector to step in and make those matches. And then you will see businesses start to grow. I mean, I think there are lots of things that inhibit the growth of small business. Some are for budget rather than election. But if we can just recognise that the growth is going to come from the small businesses. In the States, they call them entrepreneurial mice. And it's not Facebook building up economies or Airbnb. It's all these small businesses. And they create entrepreneurial families. And we don't get the flu.
And talking about the high street, a lot of people will have seen a decline in their high street across Shifnal. Well, perhaps Shifnal's an exception actually, but Newport and of course Wellington, where you're based. What's the future for the high street? How could you change that?
Well, this is one of the reasons I stepped up to this election. That there's a lot of goodwill, there's a lot of will in public sector and private sector to rebuild the high street, but it's not happening. We've got a few structural problems, not least of which the planning policy. So we can have a lot of warm words about high street revival, but then if all the planning is given out of town and you start building more and more retail out of town, it will just simply continue to die. So Aldi are talking about 8 stores in some towns over the next decade. It won't be in towns, by the way, it'll be out of town. And we just can't cope with that. These market towns need to be centres of commerce, as well as other activity taking place in there. We know they've got to evolve and change, but you can't strangle them and starve them of commerce. It's commerce that keeps them going.
And finally, Faye, you mentioned in your initial piece there about students. Education was another big concern of people. What are your thoughts on education?
Well, when the Labour Party manifesto came out and they were scrapping tuition fees, I was cheering. I think it's iniquitous. I think to saddle young people with debt, and for that charge to have gone up 10 times, it started as 1,000 in 98, and there we had, a Labour Party coming in on the mantra of education, 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 and a year later, they put charges on people to study. I think maybe less people should consider university. I don't think 48% should go to university, but to load them with this debt is shocking. So I am all for whichever party scraps it 100%.
Super, excellent. Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Faye. Best of luck on June the 8th, and I shall see you at the count.
Marvellous, you're coming?
I am.
Oh, see you there, fantastic.